host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. This is an opportunity for us to chat today about you, your life, and your relationship, and what matters most to you. In this show, I'll bring the latest research about actually pain, chronic pain, and depression. And then I will talk to an expert who just wrote a book, and her name is Sarah Ann Shockley, and she actually wrote about chronic pain. She had pain herself, and she shared her story with everyone else. And after that, I would love to chat with you. Your experience, your questions, your sharing is important, and is important to everyone. We all learn from each other. Sometimes when we're in the isolation of who we are, we think we're the only one who has those questions, or we're the only one who's struggling with some matters. And then when we hear everybody else who might be going through the same concepts or issues, then it's important for them to hear you. While you will also get maybe some questions answered. So I'd love to hear from you at the end of the show. Most probably, if you could start calling at 3:30, I would really appreciate it, so I know who is on the lines and how many minutes I have to allocate to all of you who are calling. So call the studio, 951-922-3532. We'll be right back with the latest research about pain.
I'll be there in a hurry. You don't have to worry, 'cause baby, there ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no valley low enough, ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want, by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
And now, back to our program.
Welcome back to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. Now, National Institute of Health study explains why opiate therapy may not always work well for chronic pain. Well, we kind of know that. That's why people are taking more and more opiates, and they're still in pain, but they're just getting addicted with opiates. Researchers have shown that pain-induced changes in the rat brain's opiate receptor system may explain the limited effectiveness of opiate therapy in chronic pain, and may play a role in the depression that often accompanies it. These findings clearly show the impact of chronic pain on the brain and its relation to depression. The study, conducted by scientists at the National Institute of Health and colleagues from McGill University in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, was published in the Journal of Pain, and that was actually in March of 2018. Dr. Mark Pitcher at the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health says, we know that people with chronic pain have reduced availability of opiate receptors, the molecules opiate drugs bind to in the brain. What we haven't known until now is why. Are there pre-existing brain differences that might predispose some people to develop chronic pain? Or might chronic pain cause these differences? Our findings suggest that chronic pain itself is irresponsible. In the study, cross-sectional PET imaging was performed on the brains of rats that had undergone surgery to produce a nerve injury that causes chronic pain, and on rats that had undergone sham surgery, a similar procedure that does not cause chronic pain. 3 months later, the availability of opiate receptors had decreased in multiple regions of the brain in the nerve-injured rats, but no changes had occurred in the sham surgery rats. Other tests performed on the rats provided insight into the relationship between chronic pain and depression. Normal, healthy rats will drink water with sugar and it rather than plain water if given a choice. But animals with decreased ability to experience pleasure, which is a recognized symptom of depression known as anhedonia, may not. In this study, the rats with chronic pain showed a decreased preference for sucrose water over plain water after injury. Furthermore, animals in this group also displayed a positive correlation between opiate receptors availability and the preference for the sugar water. So Dr. Catherine Bushnell, scientific director of the NIH, stated that it's well known that there's a link between chronic pain and depression. The results of the study indicate that pain-induced changes in the brain's opiate system may play a role in this association. Animals with the greatest decrease in opiate receptor availabilities showed the greatest increase in depression-like symptoms after experiencing chronic pain. These results provide insights into why we see limited effectiveness of opiate therapy in chronic pain and the mechanism of the depression that may actually accompany it. This working with people for 20-some years with chronic pain, and also working with a lot of people who have been addicted to opioids and other type of drugs, who actually got started with pain. They went through surgeries and then they were prescribed opiates as painkillers. And after the surgery, after a while, it seems like it worked for small, short time where they could take care of themselves with the painkillers and then they got off of it. But for any reason, whether it was due to surgery or any other illnesses where there's chronic pain, it seems like these studies show that opiates are not necessarily working, and taking them will induce depression, but also that chronic pain by itself, it seems like it also, as a side effect, has depression with it. So there's a lot of work being done into looking at what else can be done about the depression and the chronic pain. And many people are looking at alternative to opiates and alternative to the medical industry to be with the pain in a whole different way if the pain is there for life and is supposed to be. And the author, Sarah Ann Shockley, who has written a book, The Pain Companion, has actually gone through that and will be with us to talk about her own experience and her latest book. So be with us. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with her.
I am the maker, I am the wine. Shake me loose from this vine. I challenge my enemies.
The people who care at Absolute Contractors in Yucaipa wants to recognize and salute our brave men and women in uniform, standing tall for our political and economical freedoms around the world. Let's remember them all in our thoughts, prayers, and support from home. That's courtesy of the people who care at Absolute Contractors, where service is more than a word, it's a fact, based on the importance they place in satisfying their customers with quality and integrity. For your remodeling and construction, call Grant at 909-844-6900 844-6383. They work hard for their community and country. Absolute Contractors, 909-844-6383.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
Take KMET 1490 AM with you everywhere you go by downloading our free smartphone apps found on the KMET website, KMET1490am.com. You can also go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store on your phone to download the free app. Now you can listen live or play any of your favorite programmers' podcasts using your smartphone. Don't miss out on the free KMET smartphone apps. Go to KMET1490am.com and download your free phone app today.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I am excited to talk to Sarah Ann Shockley, who's an author of The Pain Companion. In the fall of 2007, she contracted thoracic outlet syndrome, thoracic outlet syndrome, TOS, which is a collapse of the area between the shoulders and the first rib, and has lived with debilitating nerve pain ever since. She's been a regular columnist for Pain News Network and is a regular contributor to the Mighty, a 1.5 million member online community for those living with chronic illnesses and pain. She lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, and you can visit her online, www.thepaincompanion.com. Welcome, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
It is
I know
so
that
nice
pain
to have
is
you.
not our favorite topic, but it's so important to be talking about it. So thank you so much for having me on.
Pain is a very important topic. I know that most people don't want to talk about it. And funny enough, people who are in pain have this duality about it where sometimes they identify themselves with the pain. So even in, when you ask them how they are, the first thing they share is about their pain, and yet they're tired of their pain and they really don't want to share about their pain. So I know that you have gone through a lot of pain and chronic pain, and it's a condition that you have had to live with. So tell us about you first.
Well, I had, as you said earlier, I was diagnosed in 2007. I'm still in it. I'm a lot better than I was, but it's been a long haul. And my condition involves a lot of nerve pain, which is very difficult to deal with. It doesn't lend itself to much of anything at all to, make it either medications or anything else. There's hardly any treatments for the condition I have. So I was kind of left to my own devices to sort of work out how is I going to heal this and how am I going to live with this. And over time, when you're living with chronic pain like that, and particularly when it's really debilitating, a number of things happen. One is that you begin to feel really isolated and alone in it. And I think that's part of what happens for so many people in chronic pain. They feel very disconnected from life and eventually disconnected from themselves. Yes. And yes, over time, you do begin to identify with your pain a bit. It's really hard not to. When you're in pain like that, it takes over everything. It takes over your life, you can't do anything without considering pain. So all of a sudden, it's like somebody else or something else is running the show. They're in the driver's seat. It's almost like another person in your life.
Pretty much.
Nobody you invited in, nobody you want to know. They're really horrible and awful, and there they are, living. They're in your living room, they're in your bedroom, they're in your kitchen, they're in your car, they're everywhere you go, they're everything you do. So yeah, it's really difficult not to begin to identify. But also, when we have to go through the medical system and work with doctors and stuff, we kind of become a little bit labeled, because we're diagnosed with something. And what we talk about when we go there for treatment is the something that we have. We don't talk so much about us and our experience of it. So that's part of it, too. We kind of fall into that almost trap in a way of connecting ourselves with the condition we have. And we even call it my condition, my this and my that. Yeah.
And I think it's also the expression of it and what happens to people around us, because there's this paradoxical concept that if you don't talk about your pain, people consistently expect you to do things that maybe your pain is not going to allow you. And if once in a while you talk about it, then people have a way of wanting to help. This is, I think, that our genetic concept of being a human being. So the minute that you talk about your pain, everybody wants to help from their own knowledge and from what's going on. And they ask you, and then now you have to repeat yourself and repeat your story. So then it helps you go back into identifying with pain. And how does that work for you, sharing? Because one aspect of it is experiencing it, feeling it, being with it, all the emotions that are part of it as a side effect of it, and then also dealing with the community, friends and family and everyone. Can you talk a little bit about how it works on different levels for you?
But your comments and your question is so right on, because it's really difficult for those of us who are in pain, ongoing pain. We both need to talk about it, but we also, when we talk about it, sometimes we feel worse, because we're sort of going right into it. And sometimes when we talk about it, it depends on who we choose to speak about it with. But you're absolutely right. People do want to help, but they often are a little misguided in the help they want to give, kind of jump in and try to offer advice a little too soon. And most of us have been living with pain for a long time. We have tried just about everything already. And so the best that other people can do for us is to listen, to let us speak without offering advice and without trying to fix. That can be really uncomfortable. It's kind of a difficult thing, because it's uncomfortable for other people who love us to see us in pain, and they want to fix it. It's also a little scary sometimes. It can be really scary to watch somebody be in pain for a long, long time. And yet part of, I feel, what the healing process is for those of us who have been in pain for a while is to be able to talk about it, but to talk about it in a way that is really constructive, not just repeating, our symptoms to a doctor, but finding somebody who's able to be that very compassionate ear, somebody who can listen to the story, listen to what we have to share, listen to all what you mentioned earlier, the incredible deep emotions that come with living with pain, a lot of sorrow, a lot of grief and loss come with living with pain, because we're not in our lives the way we want to be. And a lot of us are parents, we're in relationships, we can't be in them the way we want to be. So we live with a lot of intense emotions every day, and we don't always even recognize them for ourselves. So being able to express those to someone else who will just listen and not try to fix, it's really, really, really helpful and can be really healing. So you're so right. I mean, there's this strange paradox of both. When we talk about it, sometimes it almost makes it worse because we're just listing our symptoms. But other times when we talk about it, depending on who's listening and who's able to hold that space, it can be really, really healing. So I do encourage people to express when they can.
And for people who are listening, for our listeners, to also remember that to ask people who are having pain what their needs are, instead of just coming up with what we want to tell them to help them. I know that a lot of times when we're in a gathering and somebody is explaining their pain, obviously because I'm a therapist, I listen, and everybody's jumping in with all that's going on. And sometimes it becomes overwhelming because the person who's in pain has to explain, oh, the one you're talking about is unrelated to me. Yeah, I've tried that. This one just doesn't work. So now they have to almost defend who they are and their pain.
Yes.
And it becomes
Yes.
more painful for them having
Yes.
to go through this. Now,
You're
Sarah,
absolutely right.
we're talking of I talked about research, which talked about opiates and opiate receptors. And I know that one of the first things that when you go to a doctor and you say that I have pain, whether it's due to a surgery or some uh, other reasons such as yours, when you go to a doctor, usually they give you painkillers, which they're opiates. Now, did you also go through that, or from the beginning you just chose not to utilize any opiates or painkillers?
I kind of did a mixed thing. I'm not one that I try to avoid pharmaceuticals in life in general. I'm a sort of a natural-oriented, organic person anyway. So I wouldn't, I wasn't rushing to do that. But in the process of looking at what might help, and in the process of also going through disability hearings and stuff, and I had to try things to show that I was trying to heal, of course. And that's the traditional way to try to heal, is to take medications. So I did take some to just try them out. For me, they created worse side effects. I mean, they really weren't helpful at all. Nausea, headaches, insomnia, worse than normal, and fogginess. And when you're a parent, you can't be foggy, foggier than you already are when you're in pain. So for me, they weren't really an option. But I do hear what you're saying. A lot of times when we go to a doctor and we express that we're in pain, we're offered, here's some pills, go take these. And that's, if we can't function without them, I would never fault anyone for using them. If it helps you get through a day, fine, but that can't be the only answer we've got. In fact, and it's not really an answer, it's a stopgap. Unfortunately, sometimes that stopgap is all we've got. So what can we do beyond that? It's kind of like, when you have a fire alarm in your house and the smoke alarm or something goes off, and you do something to stop the smoke alarm because it's really annoying, but then you got to go check the fire, what made it happen. So I think sometimes we stop at the point of trying to deal with the pain. That's all we're given to work with, when in fact, how do we deal with the whole body, the whole person? How's it affecting the person's life, and what's going on that created the pain in the first place?
Yes. And I know that with many people who I've worked with, and you just said it and mentioned it, is when you're going through a system, whether it's the insurance system that you have to get authorization, or whether it's the disability system or workman's comp system, or any of those, that part of the showing that I am getting treatment and I'm complying with treatment is to go through taking a lot of medication. And I've had clients who said, we just get the medication because we have to show, but we're not even taking it. And it's interesting that also the system is feeding this process. And I don't know if there's any, I don't have any offering of how else to do create the system, but I know that the system also allows this type of usage more and more, because obviously the brain of the human being also wants a quick relief, and if it can, is going to use it. Unfortunately, as the studies also show, that when the pain becomes chronic and long term, then the same things don't work. You just develop a long-term addiction for a life, as we see the epidemic of what's going on in the whole world right now, especially in the United States. So you have found other alternatives in handling the pain, and that's what you have written actually in the book, The Pain Companion. You have experienced, you've journaled, you've gone back and really re-experienced that, and then you said, okay, I'm going to share what I have gone through to help myself with everyone. So tell us how you have actually helped yourself.
Well, thank you. And I think really it comes down to two main areas that I look at, and that I looked at for myself. One was the emotions that we were talking about earlier, and I did use journaling to kind of get in touch with those and realized, oh, wow, besides all this incredible pain, physically there's a lot of emotional pain. And I felt that I just discovered by beginning to express it through journaling and by talking with people that I could begin to move that. And by moving the emotional pain, by coming to terms with it, by working with pain more as an ally instead of an enemy, and beginning to find positive ways of being with it, I was able to release a lot of the emotional, I don't know if I guess that you can say it's trauma, but certainly it's really intense stuff that goes along with being in pain, and that began to help the physical pain move on. It's like they get interlocked in a way, because you get really tense and tight, and our first response to pain, usually physical or emotional, is to contract, to pull in, to pull our breath in, and to stop, try to stop the pain, try to stop everything. And the other part of what I worked with was awareness and breath, and all of this within the kind of overall idea of what would happen if I stopped fighting pain? What would happen if I stopped perceiving it as the enemy? Because after all, it's my body. So it's it's me talking to me in a way. Pain is my body saying, hello, there's something to look at here. And so I think, I realized over time that we weren't really taught how to be with pain in our culture except to get rid of it. And we're not taught how to express it positively. Or in fact, we're told to hide it and put it away and not bother people and get rid of it as fast as possible. And when pain doesn't go, how do you live with that? How do you deal with the fact that it's not leaving? You begin to feel like you're the problem, and you begin to feel like you're a mistake. And so part of what I did was to shift that perception of both pain and myself from being a problem or something wrong to, oh, wait a minute, what if pain is a natural signal that's part of the healing process? What if being in pain is just a signal that my body's trying to heal from something? It's telling me I need to pay attention, but it's also telling me it's trying to heal. So how do I, instead of closing down and clamping down and getting really tight and fighting, can I relax around it a little more? Can I, in a sense, turn toward pain and kind of like what you would do with a little kid. If you see a little kid who's hurting, you wouldn't yell at them like we do with pain. We're always like, get out of my body, or shut up or stop. But you turn and say, well, what's going on? What can I do for you? How can I help you? So I started to begin to create kind of a relationship with the pain in my body in that way, turning towards it, being softer towards it, understanding that, wow, my body's going through this too. It's everybody's in pain. Me, my body, the pain, we're all in it together in a sense. So there's no enemy here. And how do I be with it differently? And part of that was working with breath and learning how to let the breath go a little more, relax into it a little more. It's hard to do this because our, as I said earlier, our response to pain is to pull in, to pull away, to contract, and to fight. So you have to deliberately kind of begin to relax and see pain with kinder eyes. See pain as part of the process. Oh, this is just something I'm moving through. This isn't all of me. It isn't all of life. It's just something that I'm with. And that in itself sounds so simple, but it's really profound. It can make really profound changes in physiologically as well as emotionally. You begin to breathe differently. The blood flows better. You can heal when you start to relax and relieve the stress and let things flow more. So it's really simple, but it's really important and really profound.
I think that naturally many people, as you said, they dissociate from their body, they remove themselves from the space that is pain. And then when they come back to their body and suddenly this still there and it gnaws at them, they get angry at their body. They get angry at themselves. They get angry at God. They get angry at, humanity. And they'll start being frustrated with all of it. Then the questions of why me? And was I bad? And did I do anything bad? Why do I deserve this? And, all of the questions of morality shows up when we question ourselves in that space. I should have done this and I should have done that. And this is why I get. So those are all of the depression and grief. I think the state of grief that we go through with the space that we used to have with our body, which maybe was free and we could have had the freedom to do anything, and we can't really do as much with our body. But I'm hearing that when you're saying that there is a place where we can respect our body, and with that respect and love and coming back to it and soothing it, and attending to the space, which means that you have to go to the pain and arrive at it, receive it, and love it, and be with it, so that from that meditative place, as you said, breathe into it and let go, that you can accepting it and accepting the new limitations that you might have, it might actually free you to all the other limitations that you may put upon yourself. And taking
Yes.
care of yourself, resting your body, relaxing into it, as you say, that it may help you actually minimize the experience of pain throughout the day. Or even if you don't minimize it, that it becomes a new friend as you live with it throughout
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah. It's kind of a paradox, but what I discovered was that fighting really didn't work very well. Certainly didn't work for me and a lot of people that I've spoken to about this. And it's a bit of it's counterintuitive. It's not what you really first want to do. But when we give pain actually more room, more breathing room in our bodies, exactly opposite of what we would think we should be doing. But when we actually allow it, in a sense, you almost imagine it's a being that is relaxing. Like, it's okay for you to be here right now. I don't like it particularly, but we're going to go through this together. Just kind of talk to it. Because you're talking to part of you. You're talking to the part of you that is hurting. So it's not a foreign entity. It's a signal from you to you. So if we can kind of, soothe it, you can send it, in a sense, in your imagination, you kind of send a soothing mist to it, send it loving kindness. It's opposite to what we've been taught we should be doing with pain. And yet, by giving it more, paradoxically, it's like that kid that begins to relax a bit. It's almost like you can give pain breath. You give it room to breathe, you give it room to move where it needs to move, and then it's like, okay, we're in this together. And something just begins to let go a bit, begins to loosen up, and I have found, and many people have found who have tried this, that you actually feel better physically. Not instant. You're not going to be out of pain in 2 seconds. It's a pathway. It's a journey to get through pain, but it seems to work better to travel with it rather than against it.
The other part that I've sensed that you're doing in your book, and it's an important fact that we all talk about it in the psychology world, is re-emphasizing the meaning of the way that we think about our body, ourselves, and the pain, and give it new meaning. Be with it in a different way of the thoughts and the belief system that we have. Not only that you are with your body in another way, but you're also giving it a totally different meaning as it moves along. And giving it that meaning, it seems like it changes the emotions. Like, if I think I'm bad, I've done something bad, this pain is not supposed to be here, and keep being in that position, then the emotions that come with it are frustration, sadness, anxiety. How long is this going to be? Am I going to be like this for the rest of my life? It's not worth living. So all of those thought processes, it creates a lot of negative emotions, which then it makes the body very tense, and it creates more pain. And you're saying, as the world of psychology, if we change the meaning of the way that we are with pain, and that pain is for us, if we think about it as a best friend who's going to be with me for the rest of my life, and it has the right messages for me, and it's telling me to be careful and watch for my body and my energy, then the feelings that are around it would be different.
Yes, exactly. And we don't want pain to go away. I mean, out of our lives completely forever and ever. We don't want to be in pain all the time, but pain is a helpful thing. It's a barometer for where we are. It tells us what's going on with our body. It tells us we need to pay attention. And a lot of times before we get into severe pain, the body's trying to talk to us in ways that we might not be paying attention to, like, I'm really tired now, but we override that. Or I'm really stressed out now, but we override it. So eventually it has to kind of yell at us and get our attention, like, hello, hello, hello. I need more than that. And so if we can understand that pain is a helpful thing, it's something that's trying to guide us, and so as you're moving and you're staying within your limits and you're doing things to relax more, and you notice that your pain is less, okay, that's an indication you're going in the right direction. So it can be a really useful thing to have, and I know it's really hard to be living with it every day. I certainly know that. And if we're already there, if we're already living with pain, it's going to be a lot more healing and helpful and healthy to work with it rather than to fight it. So it's not giving up, it's not acquiescing, but it's not being in the battle zone all the time. It's like, okay, how can we work together? How can we go through this together?
Sarah, how was the difference with your relationship with your family members, like husband and kids, and your community, people who were your very close friend, while you were going through the pain and suffering, and then the transition where the suffering about the pain went away and you wrote the book? What's the difference, so that our listeners can also see that they might be in one of these stages and how they could shift that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because you do go through changes with your friendships, with your family, with your coworkers if you're still working. I had to stop working, so that just, that ended that there. But sometimes, your friends go through stages with you too. They want you to be out of pain. They want to help. And then sometimes they get really tired of you being in pain. Sometimes they forget that you're in pain. You kind of have to gently remind them that you can't carry that thing or lift that thing, or you can't be out that long, and it's hard to have to do this all the time, but sometimes we have to just, especially if you have pain is not always visible. So if it's not something that's obvious, we may have to gently remind people that we're with that we do need a little extra help, and we can't always do what they want to, what they would prefer us to be able to do. And it seems like it goes through stages depending on how long you're in pain, where people are really helpful, and then they get kind of tired of being helpful. And you kind of have to draw on different people at different times so nobody gets really exhausted. But for those of us that are in pain almost always need people to help us somehow. Even like, and you were talking about family too. My son was 11 when this came on, and he had to learn how to do the shopping with me, do the laundry, do, cleaning. He had to pick up a lot of stuff that I was not able to do. And bless his heart, he was amazing. He never complained. But he's now a really kind person. Yes. He learned to think about somebody other than himself. Mm-hmm. And, I look back on that, and I feel very, very sad about losing a certain kind of time with him that I would prefer to have had, going camping, going biking, doing physical things. But on the other hand, pain brings some unexpected gifts with it. And I would not have chosen this path, but he learned a lot, and he's a very compassionate person now. So it also has its way of working on you and working on other people in unexpected ways that actually bring greater wisdom and compassion if you allow it to.
Yes, it can. Everyone, we're talking with Sarah Ann Shockley, the author of Pain, The Pain Companion. You can buy the book from www.thepaincompanion.com, or I'm assuming also Amazon.com. Your last word, Sarah, for all of us who are listening.
Well, I would just say, if you're in pain right now, to know that you are not wrong. It's not a mistake. It's not your fault, and you're not alone. You may, there's a lot of us on this road with you going through this at the same time.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for sharing yourself in The Pain Companion. For everyone who's out there in pain, or has family members or friends or spouse who are in pain, can really get the value of your experience in the book. Thank you again.
Thank you. You're very welcome, and thank you.
So now it's time for your valuable conversation, your sharing, your stories, your questions, the things that are important to you. It's really time for chatting in a heartfelt way. So call 951-922-3532. We'll be right back.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan has a direct approach to getting you to free your mind. Inner Voice is a live call-in show where you can chat about your life and all that matters to you in your relationships. Inner Voice, Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan, Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk, KMET 1490 AM, and on the Internet stream.
Dr. Foojan Zeine is a psychotherapist, a marriage and family therapist, and a life coach with more than 27 years of experience. She is the author of the Awareness Integration Model, which has been researched and published in numerous international journals. Dr. Foojan has offices in Beverly Hills, Irvine, and Woodland Hills, California, and also consults online and by telephone. Make an appointment with her today by calling 818-648-2140 or go online to www.foojan.com. That's www.foojan.com.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at Foojan.com or Amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Hello, listeners. This is Christopher from The Christopher Show. Hey, if you missed one of our shows here at KMET, don't worry about it. You can go to our webpage, and that's KMET1490am.com. Go to the homepage, click on the SoundCloud tab, and hear any show anytime you want.
And now, back to our program.
Welcome back to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I think we have Maria on the line. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Dr. Zeine.
How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I have a question for you. I know you were talking about pain earlier, and it just happened that my question has something to do with pain.
Wonderful. Tell me, what's going on?
So I lost my father about 15, 16 days ago. And although it was very thank you. Although it was very painful, I haven't been crying at all. And I feel like I'm living in a limbo zone. And there is a lot of pain involved. I only remember his face the last minutes of his life and his dead body in the coffin. I don't really get the memories of him all the rest of the time that he was my father. And I don't know if this is normal, if there is anything that I can do to come out of this. I think it's not, at least in our normal world, people cry when somebody passes away, but I don't.
First of all, I'm really sorry. My condolences. There's a time that we're all shocked. Did you lose your father in an accident, or was it that he was ill? Were you, sometimes people are in chronic illness and kind of people are getting ready for it, and sometimes they're not, although they are in illnesses, but we're kind of in denial and we never want to see that time, so we're not ready. Were you prepared for his death, or did it come as a shock and a surprise to you?
It was not a complete shock because he was 85 years old, but it also was not an accident. So we were not expecting, or I was not expecting him to pass away. He got pneumonia, and his death was the result of pneumonia. He didn't come back from it. It took him about 20 days in the hospital.
And how was your relationship with your father as you had grown up and at this stage with him the past, let's say, couple of years?
I had a pretty good relationship with him. I could say I was close to him, and we had a good relationship. It was not, I would see him minimum once a week at least, spend some time with him. And I would share everything that I had with him. But he was going through dialysis. But people don't die from dialysis. It's another added uh, illness that kills them. And my father's happened to be pneumonia.
Mhm. The question that you actually originally asked, is it normal for people to not cry because you've seen other people to cry and it appears to you that it's out of norm for you? Everyone that I've met goes through their grief in a different way, depending on what stage they are in their relationship with the person, the loved one that has passed away, where they are with their idea about death themselves, about the age that they are. So it really fluctuates whether it's an accident or not, whether we were waiting for it or not. Grief usually comes in different stages. So if you are still in some sort of a shock, not that the shock that your father has passed away, but it could be that there's stages of um, denial that is still there for you, where you know he's no longer here because you go maybe to your father's home and then suddenly realize that he's not there. So the realization shows up, but the idea of him not being here, it seems like he's still not with you. It seems like you're still in denial of the concept of him not being here. It's as if, somebody's on a trip. You go somewhere else, like, oh, dad isn't here. Oh, he's on a trip. So the concept of him not being here, it seems like it's not there. So there's a denial about death itself. It seems like it's still there. Also, sometimes when we're very busy and we don't allow the time. It's not that we don't have the time. We don't allow the time to be with ourselves to cry. We go through all of the rituals of the funeral and things we got to do. People come in, we have to attend to them because they want to take care of us. And then we go through our daily activities, work, everything we have to do. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves just to go in and sit with the sadness long enough for the layers of the grief to show up and get released. How is your daily activity at this time after this past 15 days where your father has passed away?
I'm very busy. I'm extremely busy. I have to take care of my business that is very new and it needs a lot of attention. And I also am at school, and I have to take care of my mother, and I also had to take care of all the arrangements after my father, so his funeral arrangements, and then after that, all the paperwork that is necessary to be done. So yes, I'm very busy.
So Maria, you don't have the luxury yet of going through the grief. So sometimes, we call this a delayed grief because there is just no time for you to be with you, to take care of you, to nurture you. And the time that you allocate to you, I'm assuming based on what I hear from you, that you're just exhausted. Like when you get home after taking care of everything that you had to, when you said you have a new business, you were studying, you had to take care of everything with your mother, and having to handle also the emotions of your mom, you don't have time. And based on that, I'm assuming that when you get a little bit of time or when you finally put your head on the pillow, you either go into a zombie zone of complete dissociation and denial just because your body has no other, it has no tolerance for anything more, or that you probably just fall asleep and collapse and then wake up with anxiety. Is that accurate?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. With your situation, let's say what's going on is very normal. But I also get it through your question that you're saying, how can I go through my grief? Because somehow when you don't allow the grief to happen, the grief is processing in the background, and it's kind of, leaking all over the system of when you're working, when you're being around, and you probably get very tired, because if there's sadness in the background that you're not attending to, then you probably feel exhausted and tired.
Yes, that's very true. Yeah, I feel really exhausted.
Is there anything you're
really
doing,
tired.
Maria, to take care of yourself?
No, not really.
Any type of exercise, any type of massages, any type of maybe spending 1 hour to 2 hours of just being with you, taking a bath, if you like water?
No, I haven't been doing any of those.
So my suggestion is to start allocating, maybe during the weekends if you have time, allocate some time, for example, as a massage, to do a foot massage maybe, or a full body massage. It's getting warm, so maybe if you can get, I don't know if you're close to the ocean or not, maybe just go walk barefoot on the sand in the ocean, and feel the sand and just be with the ocean, with no one else, no phones, no nothing, and just be there. Take a journal and start writing a letter to him, a letter that says whatever you wanted to say, your memories from childhood, things that you remember from him. Things that you always wanted to say as a child and never said. Things that you remember him saying to you. Things that you wanted to hear from him but never did. Things that he said that hurt you. Things that you said that possibly hurt him. Anything that is unsaid or wished that it was said. For all of that to be written, not with your computer or iPad or phone, but actually handwriting. Sometimes with your right hand, sometimes draw with your left hand while you think about him. If you don't remember any other face, bring his pictures, put it on your phone for a while, and start looking at his pictures and bring memories through visual pictures. See some videos of him and bring those back into the system. It's we have to stop. I'm just going to say this real quick because I want you to also know that when people have seen their loved one at the last minute, that sometimes becomes traumatizing. And that vision and that picture just haunts them for a while. So I suggest therapy and sometimes even EMDR. These are eye movement desensitization and reprocessing for trauma, and especially visual traumas, for you to be released of the trauma that has happened in the last hours maybe that you were with him, or the last days that you were with him, to release that. I hope that has helped.
Yes, thank you very much.
Take care of yourself, Maria. And for all of you who are with us, see you next week.
The preceding was a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
Serving the Inland Empire and desert communities, this is 1490 AM KMET, Banning, Beaumont, Redlands, and Palm Springs.